Alright, what's up, you guys? I'm going to do another video here. This is a video I keep meaning to want to do during the Halloween month, when Halloween is coming, because I want to talk about some of the stuff that's, even though you have on fiction, these horror movies, particular ones like maybe A Hills Have Eyes shit, and then the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's stuff that did really happen. Hollywood will take some of the stuff, borrow from some stuff that really happened and exaggerate it, but yet some stuff, even though it's like exaggerated per se, Hollywood will exaggerate it okay, but yet there's another thing that ain't exaggerated by Hollywood. Hollywood will exaggerate, but then there's a true thing that isn't stressed enough that they kind of sugarcoat for the rest of us. And people say, oh, that's Hollywood. Hollywood exaggerates. We know Hollywood exaggerates the stuff, but then that kind of diverts certain humans with stuff that they kind of soften up these days that did really happen. Just because Hollywood exaggerated it their way, it doesn't mean that there isn't a sugar-coated version of stuff that happened, has happened. And just because I wanted to bring things like into it, like say you look at Alex Jones a little bit on there, and Alex Jones will say some really crazy shit. But Bohemian Grove is real, and there's a lot of stuff that is real that goes out there. And if you look at things other than Alex Jones and try to check into things and all that, I wanted to combine that since it's a Halloween month, that I ain't gonna stick up for the government or Alex Jones or anything like that. I'm still a firm believer that the government has done purges and told the news other stuff, like the Waco incident, for example. How come all the kids had to die? You know, so there has been purges that has happened. Well, other countries are still doing purges now, but, and I want to say this because I don't want to look like I'm saying the video sticking up for the government, but, and I'm not sticking up for Alex Jones, but yes, whether Alex Jones says it or not, there is a fact that we do have executive orders. Everything from in case there's a collapse of society and certain other things that have to be dealt with. The government has gotten military or certain task forces to deal with certain kinds of things. Everything from disasters to certain groups of people that you may have to deal with, you know what I mean? But these executive orders do exist, and they have been misused, and they even get misused even now. But I wanted to say, like, some reasons for some of these executive orders, or some people even say there's some secret protocols in government, people do on the sly in government to purge things. But keep in mind, like, okay, I don't care if you're from maybe what country you're from. Maybe some of my friends in England, I'd like to hear more about some of the gruesome legends and murders and different things that have happened. I think a couple countries, even probably England, probably got similar executive orders. Okay, so I want to say, like, okay, our country, when America was founded, okay, it was, first of all, when people left to come to this country, I mean, their people started living in cabins, shacks. It's very rural. And they're leaving countries that already had really fancy stone buildings, churches, and architecture. So America has went pretty backwards. And I'm saying that, shoot, I can even argue at a certain point that maybe 20s or 30s, or maybe even in the 50s and 60s, you had a lot of very rural areas, and even like if you want to, I wanted to slip into, if any of you guys watch Chuck Norris movies, there was an old Chuck Norris movie called Breaker, where there was a backward town that was basically a hick town, and the sheriffs and all these people were murderous, and they were still living in the old West area, the Wild West area. But this country, okay, had maybe backward, you know, because it was very rural. We did have the stories you hear about, like movies like the Texas Chainsaw movie, or were an understatement. Even though Hollywood exaggerates, we had a lot of backward whole families that did some pretty depraved shit. Okay, and then we also had like say you were going out of state, you know, to go somewhere and come home, you know, whether it's a business trip you pass through or the boondocks. There was an era in this time since so rural that like you can disappear and you can be arrested for some stupid shit. Like, I'm not saying all hillbillies or hicks are bad, but in very rural areas it wasn't very common. It wasn't uncommon that you can get yes, and you can be white and get arrested like a stranger for some stupid shit and not get no phone call and be sitting in some jail indefinitely forever, or just whenever they felt like letting you out. Nobody would know where the hell you're at, you know. And there were, when this country was young, you got a picture in your head, read between the lines when you see the real stories about Texas Chainsaw Massacre or other kind of things you see in history, that how rural this country was. There was a lot more backward groups of people, whole families, that they have you believe that if you weren't murdered and maybe even eaten or some kind of crazy shit, or in some hick town in some jail, like just left there, you know, and there was shit like that going on. And there was well, then later on in history, in the Prohibition era, where damn near anybody could get a Tommy gun, you had a bunch of gangsters running around, whole groups, which now we can say, you know, that was borderline domestic terrorist that the president of that time was under pressure to deal with, because you had they didn't have yet in place the SWAT teams that you can get now in the ATF. That you did have some serious people that, you know, could do some shit. And, well, you figure even in the 80s, how come you were hearing about these gangs with fully automatic weapons, you know, and they were doing less about than actual civilized people, and they were waiting to do it. But then they want gun control on law-abiding citizens, like people are wanting that, you know. No question that. But anyway, what I was trying to say in this rambling, these executive orders, they had legit reasons, because yeah, you did have to have task forces to deal with a lot of shit like I was just talking about, right? But yes, they can get misused too, and they have. But then later on in history too, I don't think this was anything reason for this country to civilize by any means, because it was once big business. If they didn't purge certain people, they had mental hospitals set up all over the place where it was big business. The states were just paying to put people away, and there was a lot of people that really were crazy and fucked up in the head that if they didn't throw you in jail, they kind of got rid of you by other means, you know. That I think we were just basically graduating from being no different than medieval France, Spain, and medieval England. Matter of fact, this country was founded, first started, people settling in. They were in covered wagons and cabins, and they left areas where people already had very intricate buildings made out of stone and nice architecture, and people starting right over. So, you know, like there were times where people, some of the police and the whole town, they were still living in the old Wild West days, you know, maybe a couple hundred years later on. And so, yeah, people had to have task forces to investigate shit like that and look into the shit, you know what I mean? But yet it turned into a very deadly weapon to actually be able to harass whole families too, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit of both. Yes, you do have these. We'd had to deal with some serious shit, like because we had a lot of backward communities and families, more than you think, you know. But hell, you know, I'll say this in another video later, that now, you know, we graduated from putting people in big mental hospitals, like later on, to now the states don't want to pay and just lock everybody up crazy and there's a place called Dixmont. The buildings now we're not even there anymore now. You can see YouTube videos of the building that people explored. But yeah, it was about 20 miles. Where Dixmont used to be is about 20 miles from where I live, and it's just a building ain't there anymore. They were going to try to build a Walmart there, but well, the states quit paying for that, so now they had to fast forward these years, this era we're living in. Even though this is subject matter for another video, instead of locking people in institutions, now they want insurance to pay for it, and now they want to get everybody on psychotropic drugs instead, because that's big business. We used to be big business to lock you in a mental hospital, whether you were crazy or not, or society didn't like you or to shut you up, or if you were a teenage boy or girl and you were molested by a priest or your uncle, to shut you up, they threw you into an institution. Now, we are a country that this half century or more war on drugs to the biggest purveyor of drugs, as long as you do it like they say and you try to require your kids to be on drugs. You can have, I can argue now that, yeah, you legalize not recreational marijuana, pushing psychotropic drugs and pills, but there's still an illegal aspect of it. If you do it, you practice selling of these pills and drugs without a license, you can still go to jail. But as long as you do it legally, most of the population is going to be either on some kind of pills, legalized marijuana, psychotropic drugs. And if you're one of the few people in families that refuse these drugs and want to live a different way, now it's kind of going to twist around ass backwards, and you can be the only family that's not into that shit and be purged, arrested, thrown in some institution. We'll throw you in prison, but the conditions on give you certain liberties as long as you're taking your meds. You even got trolls on the internet saying, people's YouTube videos that speak and disagree with certain things on YouTube, saying, you take your meds, and you got people in workplaces outside of YouTube around you. You disagree with something, or you defy them, or you don't believe this or that. It's none of their believe shit, or don't believe shit. That's none of their fucking business. You get smart with them and saying, "Oh, why ain't you taking your meds?" It's like, fuck you, but yeah. But there is a potential for all of that in history, which could be going on now. If you're religious and believe in the end of days, that shit will turn over on its head, and it will lead to a crash of the rule of law, like a financial collapse, a big disaster, the whole rule of law, and we'll be back into maybe this country, and along with other countries, if anything collapses, whether it's this country or other countries, we'll damn near be back in just as bad as the medieval England and shit like that. But except people will have guns as long as the bullets last, as long as there's people still have the means to make gunpowder and make ammunition. There'll be people running around with guns. And you can argue like it'll be like in that movie The Road eventually. I'm trying to give you a basic idea how society in this country found and how it evolved. I mean, this country, or the countries we came from that were still, some of them were religious as not, still believed and practiced, whether you're religious or religious or secular or religious, practiced and believed some really primitive ideas there, and you can get killed or whatever too. But for some people, like I'm kind of dovetailing this in because if you subscribe, you got that this far in this video, and you subscribe to Canadian Prepper. I want to talk about his channel later, but yeah, I'm trying to give you the basic ballpark idea here how society and the rule of law has evolved when this country got started, and how it can de-evolve. Put that at the end of this video, how you can decline and decay in if like society collapses and all that happy horse shit. But yeah, I'm gonna end this video right here, and but when you think about it, it isn't really hard to believe. You know, your government daddy, don't take it for granted, ain't gonna be here forever. And whether you're gay or you're some feminist or some democratic socialist wannabe, any daddy you want to pick, this world could collapse. I'm not some like prepper fanatic that's on YouTube, but I have my own prepper ideas or whatever too. But like all these people with their feminism, with their democratic socialism, atheism, and fanatic religions, the people that they worship these people in religions on TV with these suits, and they're telling you what the end of days is going to be. None of these motherfuckers are going to matter if one major thing happens. And these Christians, that they get their wisdom and their ideas on the end of the days from the ridiculous Left Behind movies. Whatever daddy you want to worship, that daddy isn't going to help you when everything starts to collapse. I mean, only the strongest or clever will actually survive and make it. How many of them are going to make it? You know? And, I mean, it just have something to think about. I mean, what I said here is it turned into a video how society was and how rural society was and how it evolved, but yet and how it could go backward.